Welcome to Falling Through the Cracks. Feel alive and thrive with Dr. Rebecca Risk. Do you ever feel that even though nothing seems seriously wrong and you pass all the medical tests, that you still feel that your health, pain, and fatigue are completely out of control? It doesn't have to be that way. Listen to the tips and suggestions given on our program today and take back control of your health. Now, here is Dr. Rebecca Risk.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Falling Through the Cracks. Today, we're talking with Juliette Igier. She is an independent journalist and filmmaker. She's joining us from Argentina. We're discussing her new documentary, GMO Children. So, Juliette, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you to invite me to talk with you.
Can you just tell me what inspires you to make this documentary?
Well, actually, I was living in Argentina since a lot of time yet, but I went to the north of the country, and I just because I was, in holiday, but and I just look at the children and figure out that some of them were very sick, and a lot of them. So it was my first question: why these children are there so sick? And then I asked to the people around me, and they began to tell me why. I mean, it was all of these people were growing tobaccos, and to be able to grow this kind of tobaccos, they were obliged, in fact, to use some chemical product, some glyphosate, but also other product to grow it. And they told me that it was for this product that the children were sick, and also they were sick themselves. So that, yes.
So what made you? I mean, your documentary focuses on the farming and the agrochemicals. And what made you realize, of all the things that could be happening in that area, that was what was going on? Was it just the testimonies, or did you rule out other factors as well?
Well, the testimonies and also to see it. I mean, this sickness, these people were not sick, like it was not flu, or it was very heavy problem. I mean, and that was weird. I mean, I was surprised to see so many children with neurologic problem in such a little place all around. And so that really was the visual impression. My first impression was absolutely visual. I didn't know anything about that. And that was like 5 or 6 years ago. And by this time, nobody here in Argentina was almost talking about that. So it was a surprise for me. I was not expecting to find this kind of situation. And then when I began to ask myself what's happening there, so I began to read and to get in contact with people who were more specialists, with doctors or scientific, and then I realized that the problem was very, very big in all Argentina, actually, not only in the north.
So what you said the children had some neurological problems, but what exactly was it that you were seeing?
Well, some kids were like hydrocephalic, like with a big head, or some could not, speak. Some were not able to, they were like babies, but they were like 8 or 9 years old, and they were acting like babies. I mean, they couldn't walk, they couldn't speak, they were like lost, and all these parents were just carrying these children, and for them it was like normal. So it was very weird. The situation was very, actually, it was a big encounter for a football game, between the Indians. Here in the north of the country, we have some Indian Guarani people, and the Guarani people, children, which are living in the same place of these people growing tobacco, which are white people, I mean, like we say here. And it was very different. I mean, the Guarani's children were not sick, and the growers' children were sick. So the problem was in some activities they have, one of them, and not the Guarani's people. And it was about growing. I mean, the Guarani's people grow tobaccos, but the wild kind of tobaccos, and they don't use the chemical product. They just use the tobaccos for their ceremony or not to sell it. So that's the difference. And then I realized that the problem was very big in all these places and everywhere.
So I just want to confirm what you said. What you were seeing was that it was more the farmers and you said the Indians, so the natives in that area. And I would guess there's a little bit more poverty on that side, and the ones that weren't farmers, which I can't remember the term you used, but I think you said that the whites, they weren't. I mean, their children weren't as affected. So the farmers were more affected, is what you were seeing.
Yeah, the farmer was affected, and the original people, I mean the Aboriginal people, not. And they live in the same place almost. So clearly there was an external factor acting there. And that was the products they were obliged to use. I mean, if you don't grow the tobaccos with the product that the company, which is at the end Philip Morris, but I mean, at these places, a cooperativa, I mean, the place who give you all the product, they oblige you to use glyphosate and other products, I mean, all the agrochemical products, which are very toxic for these people.
Well, and we know it was just a couple of weeks ago the Monsanto was successfully sued for glyphosate causing leukemia in a gardener, but it hasn't gone this far yet. I think that was the first lawsuit against them that was successful. So we do know that the pesticides are causing damage, and I think what you're trying to say is we're not quite, what you're seeing is more systemic than what somebody here would say that they're seeing. Although I believe pesticides are causing an issue that is more hidden. Do you think that there might be less control in Argentina than there is here? I mean, here when people apply pesticides, they do wear suits and they're protected. Does that happen in Argentina?
Yes, of course. I mean, in Argentina, these people, you can imagine they are. Almost lost in this place of the country. They are very isolated. They are very poor people. They don't have any money to get a lawyer and to defend themselves. I mean, these people, they're just keeping growing tobaccos because they need social insurance that the company gives to them, and it's a vicious circle because they grow tobacco, they get sick, and then they have to keep growing tobaccos, and they continue to get sick just because they have the social insurance by the company. So they cannot get out from that, and it's really a problem here. I mean, all the economic model, agriculture economic model is based on this extensive soils culture or corn culture, but all using glyphosate and all using the modified grain, and it's very difficult because the country choose this kind of agro system, and it will be very difficult to come back to another way to grow, because the system is very powerful.
Yes.
big group, economic group. They have all these lands, and they don't want to change it. They don't care about people dying,
Well, and I know to change the system that's set up would require education, which I'm going to just speculate, or I'm going to guess isn't where you are. There are some programs in some communities. I did speak with someone a few weeks ago, with David Montgomery. He went to Africa, and he watched them do a program where he taught people how not to use pesticides. But if you don't know how to do that, you are stuck in that cycle, because you need the pesticides because of the damage that you've already done to the soil. And I know without that education, people don't know what kind of change that they should make.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, these people, they don't receive any other education. That the way to better apply these pesticides. Here now the government is saying, okay, but the people has to apply this pesticide with good practices. And this is not realistic, because, when you have so much temperature, it's very hot. People don't want to wear a suit like a cosmonaut to put the pesticide. So they use it not the way they should use it. It's true, but also they are not educated, and they don't have any other possibility to grow in another way, because they don't know how to do it, as you say.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if they understood the implications, or what would happen if they didn't wear the suit, they probably would make that sacrifice of being hot that day when they sprayed and protecting their family. But from what I'm understanding, they don't know the damage that could happen, or that's even what has happened to their children.
No, they don't know it. I mean, they don't realize, or maybe the doctors in this region, they also don't want to interfere with the agricultural politics of that region, because in Misiones, where I filmed the first part of the film, the tobacco is a very important business, and if the doctor or anybody else would say something that cause problem, they don't want to put in danger this way to get money, and so there is some few people who are trying to educate these farmers, but it's so few, and the soil are very contaminated, the water is contaminated, and so I think, talking with the doctors, they told us that the damage are getting through the DNA, so the damage maybe already in the DNA of the people. I mean, they will transmit the damage. So it's awful. Really, the situation, it's almost, no solution unless to change everything. And this is not the way Argentina is going on.
Well, and I think that part of this is the big issue that the education isn't there, and when you're living in, in your video, it was very obvious that the way the farmers are living is in what I would consider poverty. They don't have the access to computers and internet, and the way we would here if we wanted to educate ourselves more. A program needs to be set in place for them, because they can't access the rest of the world in the same way the rest of us can.
Yeah. Actually, I think things are changing because of the cellular phone. I'm also when I film, it was like 4 years ago. I with Willie's family, the boy. The big boy, which is in the house. He cannot eat by himself. Well, he has a little brother, and by the time I filmed, who was very little, and now it's almost an adult, and we communicate. And I saw the big step that this brother has done, and he can educate his father.
Oh, that's great. So
there is, I'm saying information, but it's like to be an aunt, a very little act. I mean, yes, of course, the state should educate, and the school should educate, but this is not the interest of the big companies. We always come back to this problem. I mean, the economical interests are more important than people here.
I don't think it's just there. We're going to take a quick break. We're talking with Juliette Igier. She is the author. Not author. I usually interview authors, but this is a documentary today, and it's called GMO Children. We'll be back shortly.
Become our friend on Facebook. Post your thoughts about our shows and network on our timeline. Visit Facebook.com/Voice America.
Are you tired of the healthcare system only treating your symptoms and never addressing the root cause? Discover how integrative medicine can resolve health issues through dietary and lifestyle changes and the use of natural supplements. Increase your energy, memory, mood, immune system, sexuality, and more. Join Dr. Sunil Pai and Maureen Sutton to help you take back your health with natural, evidence-based solutions. Tune in every Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time and 4 p.m. Eastern Time on Voice America Health and Wellness Channel.
Healthcare has been a major part of news stories today, with one thing that has been consistent: inconsistency. Both healthcare providers and patients have to work around and get used to a constantly changing set of rules and issues. Nurses have historically been left out of this decision-making. Listen to Once a Nurse, Always a Nurse, Exploring the World of Nursing with host Leanne Meyer. Health professionals, we invite you to share your ideas and experiences while listening to experts in various areas of nursing. Listen Mondays at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on Voice America Health and Wellness.
Explore the power of natural healing with Howard Strauss. Join us each week for an informative program that'll help you learn effective healing methods using natural remedies. Howard's guests include top researchers, authors, and experts who will share their views on a variety of natural products and healing methods that really work. Tune in to The Power of Natural Healing with Howard Strauss, Mondays at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel.
Opinions, options, answers. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Falling Through the Cracks with your host, Dr. Rebecca Risk. To reach the program today, please call in to 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email directly to Dr. Risk. The email address is anantacalgary@gmail.com. Now, back to Falling Through the Cracks. Feel alive and thrive.
Welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking with Juliette Igier. She made the documentary GMO Children, and she's joining us from Argentina today. So, Juliette, before the break, you mentioned this DNA damage that's happening to these children. What I think you said the DNA is transmitted. Can you just explain that a little more about what's actually happening?
Well, I'm not a scientist. I mean, maybe a doctor, a chemical specialist can explain that better than me. But the doctors we interviewed for the documentaries explained to us that some of these children were not directly exposed to the product. I mean, maybe the grandfather was exposed to this product. So that means that for them, the DNA damage is being transmitted. I mean, the DNA damage is done by the product. The interaction between the early DNA formation, I mean, not DNA, but the early cells formation, like when in the first weeks of the pregnancy for a woman, all the cells are getting in the process, normal process, and then the product interacts with this process and make some birth defect. So they explained to us that sometimes the DNA damage, it's already there, and then maybe the first generation will not be sick, but the second and the third, yes, will be sick. So this is kind of scarious. I mean, it's awful to think that even if we take the measure, all the protection and everything, the damage is already done for these people. And that's very scareful.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know what we do understand of genetics is that a trauma or a situation can change a gene, and then that gets passed down in the generations. And if we continue to have that exposure, we're going to continue to modify or be damaged because of that exposure. So what you said, that that maybe the grandparents were doing this, and now we have 3 or 4 generations later where the parents may have just had something more minor. This is showing up more dramatically in the children, if I'm understanding you right.
Yeah. This is that.
Yeah. So in this area where you were seeing a lot of the children were quite sick, what care did they have available to them? Like, were they able to get proper care from the medical system?
No, anything. I mean, they have the almost the basic you can imagine for them. So it's like nothing for developed country like yours or mine in France. I mean, these children are heavy sick, and they don't receive more than some instrument. I mean, in one home we went, the mother was so isolated, and they didn't receive anything. I mean, they had a wheelchair given by a private association, but nothing, nothing like even milk. I mean, some of the children, they cannot digest well the alimentation, so they need like special milk, like for babies, and they don't even receive that. I mean, the people are just struggling with high price also in alimentation, special alimentation, or even insume that they need, for example, because they cannot aliment themselves by the mouth, and they have to go directly to the stomach. You need some kind of I don't know how to say.
A feeding tube.
Feeding tube, for example. So that maybe they will receive some of it, but not the quantity they need. And they need also diapers, and they need everything. And then they don't receive anything. It's very awful.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know, in Canada, that the situation would have been treated differently, just the illness, maybe not recognized for what it was, but, they would be in a program and receive assistance and get care and have a doctor following them. And so you're saying that this isn't happening. They're farmers and they have a sick child and they're just surviving in that situation without the care, the help, assistance of their system.
Yeah, and also the school, for example, there is one only school in this little village, and the school is full. I mean, they cannot receive any more sick children, which just need some specialized education for them who can go to the school. I mean, there are obviously a lot of children who just stay at home because they're not able to even walk. But for them who can go to maybe to have an access to education, a minimal education, there is no room in the school. It's too much people sick. And
they all need special care, and the school doesn't have the funding for the special assistance for the children.
No,
that's too bad. So, I mean, obviously, the farmers are struggling. Just having a sick child is a struggle. So then you have this, extra financial burden, and most likely the children were supposed to work on the farm. So then you don't have somebody to help you work on the farm as well. As traditionally I know is usually what happens. But I'm also wondering, with the tobacco companies, is there is there a monopoly on this land? How does the ownership of the land work?
Well, these people, they don't owe, the majority don't owe the land where they are. I mean, this is some like municipal,
they're renting it.
They're renting it, or they are just there and just grow what they want to grow in this public land. I mean, the land can be sold by the politics there. So, and they can be expulsed also from this land. Very few people have the property of the land there. So there is a kind of pressure made by the big company, the tobacco company. I mean, that's Philip Morris. But then we have the other problem in other places of Argentina where there is big farmer. The people living around are getting sick. I mean, obviously the big farmers who grows with glyphosate and GMOs, and they are not living in this land. I mean, they are living in the town in Buenos Aires, like if they were, and there is some people working for them getting sick. So it's general. It's not only in the place for tobacco. It's with all the culture, the cotton, for example, or sugar cane, or corn, or whatever. I mean, all is transgenic, all is modified, all is with glyphosate and other agrochemicals.
So one of the things that you did was you talked to people that lived in one of the towns, and they had a very high rate of, I think it was leukemia. So can you just tell us about that? Yes, well, the people, the mothers we met in Cordoba were all affected by the big lands around the city. I mean, they were living there, and with the soy boom of 2006, all the people who own the land would make some soy. So the houses were very close, very, very close from the growing soy. And all the plain will spread the agrochemical, and these people receive directly all the spreading of the chemical, and they get sick. Leukemia, it's very, very frequent, and the people are dying more than in other. I mean, usually the people are dying from some heart problem. Or here, in these places, the first cause of death is for cancer, and this is not something that the authorities or even our government will really take in consideration. I mean, some weeks ago, after the process against Monsanto, an agriculture minister, said that it was the salt with water. The salt was more dangerous than glyphosate, for example. So.
What can you say after that? No?
Well, which is what they used to say about glyphosate, that you could drink it, which is obviously changing. And with that recent lawsuit, and that lawsuit's after your documentary, but, somebody winning, I think it was $400 million against Monsanto for his leukemia. I think I have that right. I hope I have that right. There is a link to the pesticides and cancer. What I guess we should point out is how people in the town are getting exposed if they're not the farmers.
Well, just because in Argentina, the peripheral town neighborhoods, they are very close to the culture. I mean, like this woman explained, the houses were between three lands. And so every time they passed the product, they will receive it by the wind, by the water. They discover that the water was also very contaminated, and then they have to sign a discharge to the state to not sue the state because the pollution of the water. And now some municipalities are trying to make rules and to forbidden to spray this product unless 200 meters or 300 meters, even more if they can. But it's very difficult because the lobbies are very important, very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if it's in the water, of course, it's leaching into the ground, so it's gonna get there anyway. Which we know that it does travel. Goes into the ground, gets into the water, and then it can travel many, many miles away from where it's being sprayed. And then, it's in the wind. So, they might stay 200 meters away, but it's going to blow over where you are if the wind is going that way.
Yeah, it's in the rain also. Recently they have made some measurement of the rain, and the rain is plenty of pesticide. When you eat something here in Argentina, in a simple plate of food, you can have maybe 3,000 kind of pesticide. 300, 300. And so it's a lot. Every time we eat something, we are getting in poisoned.
Yeah, so even if we're being cautious and wearing suits when we spray, then of course then it rains, which is what you want it to rain when you're a farmer, and we're not protected anymore. It does sound like it is everywhere, and you're right. I agree that things need to change. Not just what's happening in Argentina. I think this is a very extreme and obvious case because of the poverty that is in that area as well. But I think that there are less obvious things happening, where I am in North America and Canada, which actually makes it harder to make change happen because it's not as obvious as where you are. But I don't think it should be happening anywhere. And globally, we need to bring this awareness and make some changes.
Yeah.
Just so that it affects everybody. And
yes.
We're going to take a quick break. We're talking today with Juliette Igier, and she made the documentary GMO Children in Argentina. So we'll be back shortly.
Think you've seen everything there is to see in online television? Let us surprise you. Visit voiceamerica.tv today for sports, health, business, and more on demand 24/7.
There is a difference in health and wellness programs. There can be mainstream programs, and then there is something extra. That something extra is called Tips to Keep You Healthy, Happy, and Motivated. with your host, Kristen Harper. If you want to hear some behind-the-scenes talk radio when it comes to health and wellness, the why as well as the how, be sure to tune in each week. This show will inspire you to be healthy and happy for life, as well as become the best version of yourself. Listen Tuesdays at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on Voice America Health and Wellness.
Tune in every Tuesday for C. diff, spores, and more with host Nancy Caralla. Our program is to provide information about C. diff, healthcare-associated infections, and more. Nancy is a C. diff survivor, healthcare professional, and founder and executive director of the C. diff Foundation. Together with her guests, we'll explore C. diff infection prevention, treatments, environmental safety, and more. Listen every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Pacific on Voice America Health and Wellness.
Today's woman faces a stressful world when it comes to staying healthy. We are bombarded by media messages with contradicting ideas about fitness and nutrition. We need to keep our diet, relationships, and stress in check. It's time to get the right message and have the most fun. Join hosts Andrea Beeman, Lisa Lutan, and Michelle Fennighaus for Healthy View Radio. It's health and happiness in one show. Every Thursday at noon Eastern Time and 9 a.m. Pacific Time on Voice America Health and Wellness.
Opinions, options, answers. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Falling Through the Cracks with your host, Dr. Rebecca Risk. To reach the program today, please call in to 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email directly to Dr. Risk. The email address is anantacalgary@gmail.com. Now, back to Falling Through the Cracks. Feel alive and thrive.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Falling Through the Cracks again. Today we're talking with Juliette Igier, and she has made the documentary GMO Children. So Juliette, I mean, we're talking about what's going on in Argentina, and is there anything that people are doing? Is there a lawsuit at all to try to make change in Argentina?
Well, yes, there is a group of doctors and activists, who are very conscious of the problem because they compiled all the information from every regions, and so they really are trying to make change and to educate people that it is possible to grow in another way. With natural product, or only respecting the time of the nature. Obviously, this is not so you cannot get so much money, but maybe if the people are not dying, that will be a benefit, not like it is now. And so there is people trying to change things, but it is very difficult to go against a big system and a system based on the profit, and that is the point. We have to change the way we are considering what is good for a country. If you're going to have big health problem in 20 years because of this system, that will not be so big profit for a country. So we need people more political people conscious, aware with a conscious that we can still growing, still be competitive, but not with playing with the people health.
Well, and really there isn't going to be a profit if the children aren't going to be able to take over the farming, because that's usually what happens is children take up their parents' land and their parents work with them and then take it over. And now we've got these sick children that aren't going to be able to do that. And when their parents aren't around, who is going to look after these children? So there is going to actually be more of a economic burden. It's just not happening right now because the parents are the ones taking this on and trying to survive, but there will be a day where there is no one left to farm.
It's true. Yes. Or the children, actually, the young generation, because she is getting informed, they want to change things. I mean, and they don't want to be like their parents. We know with transplantation of liver or whatever when they have when they are 40 years old, because this is a reality. They need to maybe the organs are not working well. They have to get transplanted, and they are getting sick, and they are getting and they are dying very early. So the new generation is getting conscious of that, and that's a good point.
Mm-hmm. So you were interviewing people. There was a doctor that was trying to bring more awareness. What was he trying to do, and what was his talk about?
Well, Dr. De Mayo, unfortunately, died last year. He was old, but during all his career, he formed other doctors in the hospital, and then he went to this little place where nobody goes and just inform the young generation. I mean, every little place he can go, he took the car and go and talk with them and make some presentations, and to inform them the risk they were taking if they were still using this product without no protection and just for growing that. So and then there is another doctor, the one who we met in Cordoba. He's a neonatology doctor, and he's also making lot of conference in the country. I mean, there is all scientific or doctors trying to inform. But this is the only thing we can do. I mean, because the politics, they will not change right now, at least.
Well, and I think it does start with that education. So informing people and letting them know that there is something wrong is a good place to start, because then, people get passionate enough that they want to make change and they start to make change. But it does have to happen at the political level for the change to follow through and be there. Otherwise, the entire community isn't going to follow through or understand what needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. This is the only way, at least now. But we have a problem also, because all the channels, for example, or the newspaper, they are getting sponsored by the agrochemical industry. So the journalists they cannot say anything. So really, it's very hard, when all the system is getting caught by this big monster. I mean, tobacco or Monsanto's, they are monsters. I mean, it's very hard to get the information in this place, because there's no way sometimes. Only by here, all the social web, like Facebook or Twitter, that's getting, but it's slow, very slow.
So you mean the social media isn't as popular there as it is here?
Yes, they are popular, the social media, and maybe this is the only way to get to the people. But with all the massive medias are not talking about that at all.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that is where the information is supposed to come from. We do trust our media to be unbiased and to give us the information that's required. And if they're afraid to report something about, these pesticides because they might lose their advertising or their funding, that's not unbiased news, which is going against, what they're all about. So there is something wrong with that system if they're afraid to report about what is actually going on.
Yes, and this is the case here. I mean, when we went to film, it was at the first time very hard to get to the people and for the people to talk to us, because they were very, suspicious. They didn't know exactly what we wanted to do. They didn't understand that we wanted to communicate about the problem. They was suspecting we were some part of the Monsanto company even. So it was very hard to get them to talk with us at the first time. Then they understand, and today they understand that it is very important. The testimony is very important. So to prevent other people to get sick, simply.
Well, and if they're as isolated as they are, it's hard to get their story out because, it sounds like you ran onto it by chance and decided to tell the story. But, if you hadn't done that, we wouldn't be aware of what was going on all the way in Argentina. I mean, that's pretty far from where I am. And, the information isn't as clear from this distance,
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. Well, the same for other, probably a lot of other regions in the world. There is the problem with this chemical used in ground. It's in all the poor country. There is a kind of same problem. If we compile all the information of sickness and because people are growing with this toxic product, we should stop right now to grow with this product. But
Well, and it's not that simple because there's the damage that the product has done to the soil and the plants. And I know that it takes education for people to understand how to grow without it, because they do think that they need it to control weeds. But what we, in other interviews I've done this year, we understand that we now have super weeds because of this chemical, and it's actually causing more harm all around, not just to the people like you're talking about, but to our land and our world. And we need to educate people. We need to bring that education to Argentina so people can learn to grow without it, because it's not necessary. And I'm speaking mostly about my interview I did with David Montgomery, if anybody is interested, and just the different kinds of the no-till agriculture that he spoke about that healed the land. And it only took a few years to turn that around. And then we're not using the chemicals anymore. And we actually have more product because of that, and healthier product, of course, and healthier soil.
Yes, I hope that these programs can really come here and make change the people. But I still thinking that without the help of the politics, it's going to be very, very hard here. Because the situation, these people are so isolated, and the place of Argentina is very big. So you have this problem in all the country. So we really need that, some program of that came into the school, agriculture school, or just to agronomy engineer, to be able to give an alternative to this culture. Then the people can choose, okay, I'm still using the chemical or not. And I think more of them will choose to not use it, because they know now that they have problem. But as you say, they need to have alternative. They need to be educated. See, yes.
Yeah. So, if I had all the money in the world, I think I would take that education everywhere. And unfortunately, I think that's part of the problem, is that those of us that want that change, we feel like we're small voices, but I don't think we are. I think that, how far your documentary can reach in doing interviews like this will take that awareness a lot further than it can be imagined, and hopefully that spurs some change.
I hope so. I really hope so. And I'm very attentive of what all of the information disponible. I mean, in the country and out of the country also. I think it is important also to make some documentaries about the alternative, just the possibility to do in another way, which I've done one for another French TV 2 or 3 months ago, and I was able to see that there is other way, and there is a change happening in the mind of some people, also in big landers, who just are getting touched about the terrific story we have about the sickness and agrochemicals. So it's slow, but I am sure that will change.
What sort of feedback have you had on the documentary so far?
Very good feedback. Very good. I mean, all the people are concerned. Some of them didn't even know about it. Most of the people who are able to see the documentaries are outside of Argentina. Here, obviously, this kind of material will not be broadcast. Here, it's not possible. That's going to against the system, but I am giving the possibility to some people here to see it. I've done a Spanish version for them, and so they are understanding that they have to change because for the life, simply for being able to live more and to live.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad you've done that for them. How can somebody get a hold of this documentary?
Well, going to the GMO's page in Facebook, you can find the links to go to the place where it's a pay-per-view in North America, so you can see it. With all the support they are in. I'm not very, aware of that because this is from the distribution over there. But I think it's very simple. You go and you can have access to the movie.
Okay, well, perfect. Thank you for joining me all the way from Argentina today. This was a great show.
Thank you very much to all of you, and I hope the people can get more conscious seeing my work. That will be great.
Yeah. So hopefully, interviews like this can bring more awareness. Today we were talking with Juliette Igier, and she made the documentary GMO Children, which is about the DNA damage that glyphosate is doing in Argentina. If you want more about my story, you can listen to my journey on my website, dr-risk.com. Don't forget to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or you can always just send me an email at anantacalgary@gmail.com. Thanks so much for listening today, and be sure to make today a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of Falling Through the Cracks. Feel alive and thrive. Please join Dr. Rebecca Risk again next Monday at noon Eastern Time and 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. We'll talk more next week.